Calm down, sweetheart. Stop being selfish. That was my mother's instruction. At the same time, strangers she hired carried boxes labeled with my sister Chelsea's name into my living room. Dad shouted orders upstairs, acting like the owner. Years of professional effort vanished, one cardboard box at a time. Every sacrifice and late night was dismissed instantly. I briefly doubted myself. Was I the problem? Too cautious, too distant. But before judging me, look at the deed. Their names were not listed. My name is Wendy Hayes. I'm 30. This house, the one they tried to invade, was not given to me. It wasn't inherited, and no one helped me finance it. I bought it myself. Every skipped holiday, every freelance job taken after midnight, every promotion I fought for, all of it funded this house by the reservoir. It is my safe place. It is proof I'm more than the daughter they forgot. Growing up, my sister always took priority. She was the miracle child who never did wrong. When she earned a B, my parents applauded loudly. When I got an A, they barely glanced up. Her birthdays meant huge parties with cakes and crowds of relatives. Mine came with one promise: we will celebrate later. It never happened. A kid remembers that. It sticks. By adolescence, the roles were permanent. She was the star. I was the overlooked spare. So, I stopped needing their attention. I built my own identity, achieving small, quiet successes. I worked through college and paid my tuition solo. I told myself I would own something permanent someday. When I signed the deed, I thought I was free. I hoped they might finally be proud. Instead, I got comments like, "It must be nice having no kids to worry about," or, "Don't get too comfortable. Life changes fast." I just smiled. I thought keeping distance ensured peace. It did until that afternoon. My phone vibrated at work. It was my neighbor. "Moving trucks are in your driveway. Did you sell?" My gut instantly clenched. I drove home fast, heart pounding. When I pulled up, my view tilted. Movers I didn't recognize marched across my floors, carrying boxes marked for a kid's room. I saw my sister's writing. "Stop!" I yelled. The volume surprised me. Everything froze. The movers looked uneasy. Mom turned, wearing her patient, condescending smile. "Sweetheart, relax," she said softly, like I was a toddler. "Your sister's family is struggling. You have all this extra space. You truly don't need it." I clenched my fists. "This is my house. I paid for it. You cannot move people in without asking me." From upstairs, Dad's booming voice sounded. "Don't be selfish. Family shares. You should be grateful you even have this place. Now it can actually be useful." That word selfish burned hottest of all. They used it my entire life, twisting my independence into guilt. My sister Chelsea stepped forward, arms crossed, chin up. Darren smirked behind her. "Oh, come on, Wendy. Don't act like you need this house. You're single. No kids, no responsibilities. You don't know what real stress is." Her words hurt more than Dad's yelling. They confirmed they never considered me important. The movers hesitated, stuck in our fight. One asked, "Ma'am, your mother hired us. Should we continue unloading?" I gave him a direct answer, my voice steady. "No, stop unloading. She is not the owner." "I am. If you continue, you are helping commit a crime." They exchanged looks, then slowly set the boxes down. One muttered, "Good luck." I realized instantly this was not a mistake. This was a planned takeover. They thought I would surrender as always. Not this time. I took out my phone and pressed record. The red light captured everything. The boxes, Mom's false calm, Dad's heavy steps, and my sister's smug expression. "Turn that off, Wendy." Mom snapped, her mask dropping. "This is private family business." "No," I countered firmly. "This is legal business now." My sister lunged, trying to snatch the phone. "Delete that. You can't make us look bad." I stepped away. "You don't need my help for that." Dad's face turned crimson. "You will not destroy this family's name." I gave a cold, bitter laugh. "You broke into my house. You hired movers. You tried to throw me out of my own life. Tell me, Dad, which part of that is a simple mistake?" The room went silent. Only my heartbeat was audible. They finally understood that the old, quiet Wendy was gone. I looked each of them directly in the eye. "You need to leave immediately." They remained still. Dad tightened his jaw. Mom whispered to my sister. They still believed they held power over me. I walked to the front door, shut it firmly, and slid the deadbolt. The click echoed loudly. "You are not welcome here anymore," I stated. For the first time, they looked unsure. That was the start of everything. They thought I was bluffing. Dad postured, believing his authority superseded the deed. Mom changed tactics, softening her voice to guilt me. My sister whispered to Darren, "Son, I wouldn't escalate the fight," but I was no longer afraid. I went back to the lock, turned it again, and said quietly, "You are not welcome here." The click hung heavy. My sister flinched. Dad's jaw clenched. They looked uncertain for the first time. Mom gasped, "Wendy, don't say things you'll regret. We are your parents." I show the recording still running. "This video goes to my lawyer tonight. If you step foot here again, the police get it too." Dad stepped closer, his voice low and dangerous. "You wouldn't dare call police on your own family." "Try me," I countered. The room was quiet. No lectures. No yelling, just suffocating silence. Darren muttered, "Let's just go," pulling my sister's arm, but her pride was too strong. "You think anyone will believe you over Mom and Dad? They'll call you dramatic." I smiled small and sharp. "Everyone will believe the deed. Everyone will believe the video. Everyone will believe the text where you planned your move." She fell silent. They grabbed their boxes with angry, jerky movements, cursing under their breath. I didn't move until the last one stepped outside. Then I slammed the door and locked it again. The sound was a victory bell, but I knew they would twist the story. They always did. I took one photo. The front door boxes piled up, my sister's name visible. Then I opened social media and typed 5 words. "When family forgets boundaries," that was all. No names, just the photo and the caption. It spread faster than expected. Friends, coworkers, and old contacts messaged me. Comments poured in sympathy, anger, and shared stories. For the first time, I wasn't fighting alone. My phone buzzed all night with calls from Mom, Dad, and sister. They had ignored me for years. Now, they couldn't stop calling. I put the phone face down and let it vibrate into silence. By Friday, it was total chaos. Saturday morning, a loud banging sound shook my front entry gate. I pulled up the security camera feed on my phone. They were all standing outside, my entire family, looking like complete strangers. Mom's appearance was messy. Her hair was disheveled, her pearls were gone, and her mascara was running. Dad's voice had lost its usual booming strength. He actually looked physically smaller. "Wendy, please," Mom called out. "We can settle this. Don't inflict this on us." Dad's tone cracked slightly. "You've made your position clear. You don't understand what people are saying about us now. You are tearing our family apart." I nearly laughed out loud. Tearing the family apart. They had already accomplished that years ago. All I did was finally refuse to pretend things were okay. Then my sister stepped forward, her hands clenched into fists. "Take down the post. Let us move in, or I promise you will regret this." I leaned close to the intercom system, keeping my voice steady but sharp enough to sting. "Regret. You spent years betraying my trust. You tried to steal my property. You publicly humiliated me. And now, just because the world is finally seeing your actions, you decide I am the real problem." Her lips began to tremble. Darren whispered something, trying to pull her arm away, but she stayed rooted to the spot. I pressed a button on my phone. The house alarm started blaring loud and piercing. They jumped back, startled by the noise. Mom covered her ears. Dad grabbed her arm and started dragging her forcefully toward the car. My sister froze for a single moment, then sprinted to catch up. Neighbors cautiously peeked out from behind their curtains. Dogs started barking everywhere. Just like that, the people who always dominated every space I occupied were reduced to frantic trespassers running away from facing themselves. By the following Monday morning, the true consequences had begun. My social media post had been shared thousands of times. At my workplace, people whispered as I walked past. Rumors circulated that my sister's boss had called her in for a discussion about her personal image. Mom's charity organization removed her from every event and luncheon. Those glossy magazine photos she relied on to maintain her reputation were meaningless now. Dad's golf companions completely stopped returning his phone calls. The perfect facade they had spent decades polishing completely shattered within a single weekend. I didn't need to shout or start a physical fight. I simply held up a mirror. Naturally, they couldn't stay quiet for long. The second wave of attack arrived in new voicemails, filled with classic guilt trips and old manipulation techniques. Dad's voice came first, low and sounding practiced. "We're your parents. We raised you. Don't you feel you owe us some loyalty?" Loyalty? That question made me scoff. They had never shown any loyalty to me. Then Mom's voice came soft and filled with false sorrow. "Family means sacrifices, Wendy. That is what love is truly about." It was funny how sacrifice always meant me losing something. My sister tried a totally different angle. "You are deliberately ruining our lives over nothing. You will end up completely alone, Wendy. Utterly alone." Perhaps that threat would have terrified me years ago. But sitting in my living room now, watching the sunlight glint off the reservoir water, I understood I wasn't alone. I was finally truly independent. Still, I wasn't foolish. Shame can turn into aggression very quickly. So I organized all my evidence, videos, text, screenshots, contracts, and sent everything to my lawyer. His quick response confirmed, "You are totally protected. This case is airtight." That was the moment I realized this conflict extended far beyond just the house. This was about completely changing the rules of our relationship. The next confrontation happened face to face. I was getting home from the supermarket when I saw them parked across the street. My parents, my sister, and Darren, all sitting motionless in the car like forgotten ghosts. I stood by my trunk, calmly loading bags, pretending I hadn't noticed them. But the moment Mom got out and started waving her hands, I knew the piece was over. "Wendy, please, just 5 minutes," she begged. I straightened up, letting the car door slam shut behind me. "You don't get 5 minutes," I told her evenly. "Not anymore." Dad got out next. He moved more slowly this time, his posture less imposing than I remembered. "You cannot destroy us simply because of your pride. Think about your sister's kids. Where are they supposed to live?" For a second, their words struck a chord. The children, my niece, and nephew were innocent in this entire mess. But I immediately recognized the tactic. This was another form of manipulation designed to turn my compassion into a weapon against me. I put the final grocery bag down and shut the trunk firmly. "They will live wherever you choose to provide for them. That is your responsibility, not mine." My sister Chelsea erupted from the passenger seat, her eyes blazing. "You heartless witch, you will live to regret this decision. You will regret ever crossing me." I didn't react. I met her intense fury with quiet certainty. "I already regret giving you the opportunity to walk into my house. That will never happen again." She froze momentarily, then slammed the car door so hard the vehicle rattled. The engine roared loudly. Tires screeched as they drove away. Neighbors came outside, curious about the commotion. I stood still, ensuring everyone saw the scene, making sure there were witnesses. By the close of that week, everything had shifted. The threatening calls slowed down, the verbal attacks ceased, and the resulting silence was no longer anxious. It felt like absolute victory. They weren't just losing me. They were losing their standing with everyone else, too. I gained a key insight during those quiet days. Revenge doesn't always demand fire and noise. Sometimes it is delivered wrapped in stillness and patience, cold enough to completely outlast their rage. That silence became my strongest tool. While they scrambled, desperately trying to repair their reputation, I did absolutely nothing. I never took the post down. I refused to answer their calls. I let the world reach its own conclusions, and the world had already made up its mind. By the next Monday, the storm had fully passed. My original post, still highlighted at the top of my profile, was being reposted by random people across the country. The comment section was flooded with responses from people who shared similar stories. "This is exactly my mother." One read, "I thought I was the only one. Thank you for speaking the truth. For years, all I had wanted was my family's approval. Now I didn't need it. I had something far more powerful. Proof that I wasn't crazy and that my boundaries were valid." Meanwhile, the consequences continued to unfold. Mom's charity dropped her from all committees. No more high-profile lunch-irons. Dad's golf club quietly removed him from the board to avoid any further controversy. And my sister, her company's HR department, requested she take a leave of absence until her family matters were completely resolved. The image they had meticulously constructed over decades crumbled much faster than I ever imagined, simply because I chose to tell the truth. It was strange how quiet this victory felt. No celebration, no dramatic climax. Just me sitting peacefully on my back porch, holding my coffee, watching the sunlight shimmer on the reservoir. That house was once just an abstract goal, 4 walls and a deed carrying my name. Now it represented much more. It was a firm line drawn in the sand, a declaration of independence. They used to insist that love required total sacrifice and that family demanded surrender. But I had grasped a different truth. Love without mutual respect is merely manipulation, and family without essential boundaries is simply control. I always assumed that standing up to them would make me the villain. But the reality is sometimes you must become the villain in someone else's narrative to finally be the hero of your own. Weeks went by. One morning while preparing coffee, my phone buzzed with an email from my lawyer. Case closed. Property secured. No further claims possible. I allowed myself a small private smile and finally breathed out. The house was quiet again, utterly peaceful. But this wasn't the fragile peace I used to chase. This was the lasting kind that comes when you stop apologizing for your own existence. Later that evening, I stepped onto the porch, watching the moonlight reflect off the water's surface. I reflected on all the years I spent trying desperately to earn their approval, chasing a conditional kind of love. For the first time, I didn't feel any bitterness. I just felt finished. I didn't need them to finally understand. I didn't need them to finally see me because I clearly saw myself. By the following Monday, the world had moved past the drama. But something fundamental inside me had changed. Not anger, just absolute clarity. I didn't despise them. I didn't wish them any harm. I simply stopped giving them the capability to hurt me. I kept the post live, not out of spite, but as a silent message to anyone scrolling through their own family conflicts. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are survival. Messages still trickled in occasionally from strangers. Your story gave me the courage to leave. I stood up to my mother today. You gave me courage. That validation, more than any likes or shares, was what genuinely mattered. The breeze coming off the lake was cool that evening. My reflection shimmered faintly on the water. I thought about the word selfish, which they had thrown at me like a weapon my entire life. But perhaps being selfish isn't always a negative thing. Maybe sometimes it just means actively choosing yourself. That is the final meaning this house holds. A symbol of choosing myself, not fueled by spite or revenge, but for the sake of peace, because love does not mean surrender, and family does not equal ownership. So, if you have ever needed to draw that firm line, if you have ever been labeled selfish just for holding your ground, remember this. You are not alone. You are finally free. If this account resonated with you, let me know in the comments. Have you ever had to firmly stand up against your own relatives? Your stories remind me I'm not the only one. And remember to like and subscribe for more stories that prove sometimes loving yourself means saying goodbye.